Hello everyone and welcome to my acrylic painting class. And today we're going to explore some opposite colors, and one of the groups we're going to look at is green and what's opposite it. Okay, I'm looking at more emerald green and yellowish green, and where it's going to take us towards the reds and violets and a bit of reds and oranges in colors. So I'm going to explain it to you a little bit more practically, but most importantly, how we're going to apply it to our painting. So we've got our beautiful tree with all covered in this moss and the lovely autumn leaves on the ground between the roots, and the same those kind of reddish orangey colors for the trees at the back. Now I'm using an orange background to help us with some of that, for some of the greens to be transparent, for some of the yellows and oranges to have an extra subcolor to them when we start painting. Now, before we start getting into the color theory and color mixing, let's just do a composition planning on our surface as we normally do, and then just take step by step with getting the grips with the colors. So I'm going to use some violet. Now let me tell you what I've got on my palette. So I've got some white, cadmium yellow, ochre, orange if you have one. If you don't, it's okay. Crimson and violet. And from the cool colors, apologies, I put my violet originally in the wrong corner. From the cool colors, I have phthalo blue and emerald green. Okay, so I'm going to start using diluted violet and plan our composition. So I've got a square format, and let's plan our tree. So it takes quite a large chunk of the right hand side, and if we were to divide our picture into half in its width, yeah, the tree trunk is almost halfway through, kind of starts on our picture somewhere here. It doesn't look right in the middle because there are different segments to it, the different kind of folds to the trunk. So we'll have a look at that later on. And also there is a horizon line, and that's almost halfway through as well. So we can plan it roughly halfway through, and then it probably will go slightly up and down with some of the trees. I think where the roots are, is that line is a little bit lower, where the trees start coming up. So that might be just where my roots might be starting. But the actual sky may be coming up a little bit above that halfway through line, but at least it gives us some sort of bearing of where it's going to be placed. Okay, so let's have a look now at the silhouette of our tree. So I want to see how much space I want to leave on the right hand side from it. So there's a couple of trees with some lovely branches on the side, so I don't want to lose those elements. And let's have a look at the positive negative spaces that tree leaves us. It's a little bit narrower space here, so the tree is wider at the top. Probably have the branches going out, the bigger tree trunks going out, they're not quite branches there. Okay, and maybe getting again slightly narrower and then slightly wider towards the forest floor. Okay, and for the left hand side, I'm going to look at that larger shape, kind of the more distinctive shape, which comes almost takes us to the center of the tree, and then I'll look at the other dynamics of it. So I just want to see how that part of the tree comes forward. Yeah, maybe even more. Okay, almost to the center of our tree. And then it's kind of almost diagonally comes out. Okay, maybe a bit lower. It's not going quite to the corner. Could have been going, but it's a little bit lower, taking us a little lower. Okay, and I can just help myself to remove some of the sketchy lines away. Okay. So constantly look out for the shapes. Okay, let's have a look now at the shape just protruding at the left, the furthest of the tree. Okay, that might help me to maybe correct myself. Is that other line? It's that lovely ridges of the tree trunk, almost like groupings, like the tree's gathering its strength. Okay. Very good. And some of the roots coming out. And that very large, quirky root is here. Okay. Okay, and then we slowly progress to see this tree trunk just a little bit somewhere here coming through. Okay. And it's kind of links, so we'll be all linked together with the darkness of the tree, so we'll read it together as a unity. We're not going to be breaking it down, but I might just see how that could be balanced and making sure that it's grounded a little bit more. Maybe it's gone a little too far towards the left. Maybe just the widths of my strokes are a little bit too wide, and if I just follow them slightly narrower, might be even better. Okay, I think I might just eat it away a little towards the right. So I'm going to leave them as they are, but I'll just remind myself this is what we'd like to do. Okay. Right, and let's have a look at the rest of the roots and try to think of them as big shapes or even the color. So for example, on the bottom right corner, we have just a lot of flat green. Yeah, it's probably just exposed part of the roots, maybe parts even of the rocks covered in a similar moss, but the surface looks quite flattish. It leads to our tree trunk. Okay, and I might just leave it as a group of greens here, and then plan the color instead of just drawing where the leaves gathered in small little areas here, which I just started almost to do a bit more here. We can get lost with that location. I think it will be easier if we apply the green and draw with the shape there. Okay. What I will do here is just decide if that's close to my horizon kind of level. Okay, that's one chunk of darkness of the tree trunk is stopping, but there is another root coming out, and where some of those trees will be perhaps a little darkness, almost as if we were straight away drawing those trees. Yeah, that transparent orange behind the violet strokes will give us a nice starting point for the color for the trees, branches. And stay a little suggestive, so it's not telling the whole shape of the tree. Here, might just move it a little forward. Don't forget placing a lot of details on the edge of the painting. By the time you'll be framing it, you will be taking a good 5 millimeters away. So don't leave important details on the edge. So I might just leave a little bit of extra gap here, light, so my tree might just stop on the tree, or might just have tiny little gap of light there. Okay. And what else I'm going to do, I will use some diluted violet with a larger brush. I just want to see the shape of our tree trunk. Okay, it's that lovely texture. Gives us an opportunity to see the whole silhouette in comparison to the orange. So if we count our background orange as a medium darkness, we have the shape of the tree as the most dark tone, and then the sky and the trees at the back will be remaining as our lighter tones. You can see that's a nice dark segment of the root. When the roots in the lower area, they're mainly, that's remaining in the medium darkness. They're dark, but we look at the whole of that area and the kind of the below the horizon. So of a similar darkness with a little bit light and a little bit darker patches, but overall more of a medium darkness. Yeah, that's probably going to stay the darkest points, and the sky will be the lightest. So that's what I'm planning now. Okay. If I don't put too much water, it's diluted, but maybe not too runny, my paint will dry quicker for our painting, but we'll be doing some color mixing, so it will dry. Acrylic dries reasonably quick. Okay, so maybe some basic shadows here. Okay. And another image I've given you was my earlier work I've done a while ago. And was just reminded me of a similar inspiration of that lovely autumn staying under the tree, and those kind of leaves just surrounding you. So just giving you that example of perhaps certain strokes and certain marks we can use when we're painting. So we'll talk about that later as well. Right, and a little bit of the tree shapes at the back, or maybe even tree branches, the smaller shape branches. So the little yellowy orangey trees, we can see just a little belt of them going at the back. Okay, what that shape is going to be. So we don't want to put them straight in a line. Okay, you can see a little bit more of a cluster of the trees on the left here. Somewhere here we can see loads of smaller tree trunks, but that gives us an opportunity to put a little bit of sky there. Okay. And the branches from the large tree, at this stage, it's a lovely way of practicing. If we don't like them, at least we practice their size and we practice their direction. So perhaps, or even connecting them kind of to the tree now, and then making decisions of how they're going to be later on will be a really good practice. So maybe something there. Quite like that one. It's came close to the same shape as my trees in the back. So maybe a less rigid line here. So I'm going to do a few lines. If they'll dry and get lost into my sky painting, that's fine as well. There are a lot of branches which we can draw and which we can avoid. So there is one branch which just looks quite rigid, sticking out sideways. I think I might leave it out. But anything which might connect the shapes a bit more. And again, we might have more, we might not draw the lines the same way when we actually come to that. We might use some board or some smudges, some scratching, some not direct linear work, but we'll have a play with some texture. But at least that gives us, are they too wide? Are they in the right direction? Am I exploring their curvature? Am I putting some branches like this? There is another branch coming here, but I don't know if it's going to be working or not. So it's good to test it out now. And if it doesn't work, not paint it afterwards. Okay, or paint over it. So with the paintings, I find it's easier to test things out at this point. It might be too many, but it's at the moment, that's exactly what we need. Right, I think that's enough for me. I'm going to stop with my drawing. I'm going to let it all dry. Just if there are any droplets of extra moist paint, I'm going to collect it so it will dry quicker. And let's have a look at some colors. Right, so I have made a little color wheel here. It doesn't have any colors on it, but I put little notes for myself. So if I were to think that my yellow is somewhere here, okay, my cadmium yellow is here, as a almost starting point for the color wheel. And then if we spread our colors going into our greens, going into our blues, going into violets, crimson reds, and then oranges back. We can have it quite simplified done. And that's what I'd like to see, the simplicity of it today. So my emerald green is going to be somewhere here approximately. Now, I'd like you just to watch it, or if you wanted to have a quick circle done, you can just outline a bowl, a fruit bowl, or a big dish, medium dish, and just do a quick hand-drawn circle and just put an approximate placement for our emerald green. If you think of the yellow being almost like 12 o'clock, so the green will be somewhere about 2 o'clock-ish. Okay, so opposite colors will start being our crimson. Okay, so I'm not mixing them, just using them as direct colors. Okay, and some artists paint very efficiently and successfully using the two colors. Okay, we can make our colors much more lighter by adding more white. We can make them slightly darker by adding more black. We can also mix those two colors together. And that's how we normally know if this is our true color, true opposite colors. So if I were to mix my crimson and my emerald green, okay, in its nature, if I just put a little bit of more green here, it will give me a gray tone. Sometimes it's harder to see if you don't use white. So if I have a little dab of white, it just gives me not as dark color. Okay, so that gives me an in-between color. If you're looking too red, maybe just a tiny bit more green. If it's looking too green, just a tiny, 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 tiny minuscule tone of the red. So just getting that balance, okay? But once we know it, we don't really need to mix it, okay? So that's how we know those are neutral colors. That's our opposite, true opposite colors. Okay. So what I'd like us to do today is using those two colors as the main ones, but also we have a split complementary group of colors. So we've got complementary colors, and on one side of the colors, for example, on the warm side of the colors, we're going to use extra colors belonging to the red side. So it's split into other colors. So we can use the greens with probably crimson. Crimson with a little bit of orange and yellows as cadmium red. Okay. So if I'll use or yellow or orange to mix it, or could have just had cadmium red. Okay, somewhere there. And we can also use any of our purples and violets. So if I mix my crimson and violet, so that will be my purple. Okay. So my violet is going to be somewhere here. And the opposite to yellow is going to be my violet and ultramarine. So if I just to mix a little bit of violet and blue, that's a rough, just to give me an idea. So that's might be a bit too far to where I want to be today. So I probably want to be somewhere about here. Okay. But also, if I wanted to move a little bit towards the yellowish green, that could be a possibility as well. So we have got quite a lot of emerald greens and darker versions of them. And we also have a little bit of warmth. So that split complementary color could go a little bit more on the yellowish side. Okay. And it also could go into blue side. So if I use emerald green and phthalo blue, so I've got my turquoise color. Okay. So we're there now. Now, simplifying those colors doesn't mean that, if I'm painting in green, okay, I have to just stick to one color and make it just light and dark. But a little hint of that warmth of the green and a little hint of the warmth, coolness of the green will make that fantastic range of color. Yeah, and for our warmth, again, this is a rough guidance for us to give us an idea. It doesn't mean that we can't use other colors, but if that will be our dominant colors, that will be fantastic. Might even make a little bit more orangey yellow color. I haven't been using much white, but the white will be obviously very welcome to use. Maybe it's a bit too quick. Maybe this color will be somewhere a bit more here. Maybe that will be a little bit more. So I'm just planning how that will be coming through. So if I wanted to have a couple of yellowish strokes, that's okay. If I wanted to have a couple of purplish strokes, that's all okay. But that's kind of the range I'll be aiming at, okay? Now if we again look back at our painting, we have that beautiful blue sky, which is somewhere here on our color wheel, okay? Color blue about somewhere here. Ultramarine is somewhere here. So that becomes almost not equally far away, but it's almost far enough from those reds and from the greens to stay and kind of support them, okay? We could say we've got all the colors on the color wheel on our painting today. But if we use them as groups and as we use them deliberately where we place in them, they will help each other out and make the painting extra beautiful. Okay. So what I'd like us to do next is to start perhaps just painting our almost neutral color for the blue for the sky. So then we can start building up our greens and overlapping it with our lovely yellows there. Okay. Well, let's see how that goes. Right, so for the color for the sky, I'm going to use just pure phthalo blue and some white. And if we wanted, we can also test it on our orange sample. This is what I'm going to do just to see how it will appear on the painting. So quite a bit of white, and let's have a lighter version of this blue. Okay, I'm just going to test it out. Okay, I know it's a little bit transparent, so it probably will dry slightly lighter, but I think I want it slightly darker in blue. If you compare perhaps the border of your printed photograph next to the blue, it's quite a darkish tone, so I think that will be a little too light. I think that's maybe a bit too dark. Is this one out? Okay, I think that's one looking better. Okay. And we have an overcast day. However, we can still just about pick up that slightly darker blue, maybe on one side of the painting, maybe top left corner. It feels like it's getting slightly lighter towards right and towards the bottom. So that might be a good point as well. So if you've got tiny bit darker tone, put it on the top left corner. And I'm applying this blue. I could do it nice and even, but then all my practice directions for the branches will be gone. So I might just leave some of the lines. It might be good to preserve that brown in places. You can always paint it over, but I quite like if it is a busy area with some sort of texture, planning it already will be a really good starting point. So then the strokes of your sky just don't look boringly fence-like painting. And also I'm thinking about my tree trunk, and I think I wanted to make it slightly narrower. So that's my opportunity to tweak its shape. Okay. Okay, that's good. And again, then I'm back to just fill in the spaces here. So I know my branches will be narrow, so I can just keep them. So even that, just a little hint of the branches left might be enough. If you paint them over, that's fine as well. Don't over panic. I'm going to have a little extra paler blue at the bottom here. Just make sure it's not too whitish. I want to leave a group of kind of a little extra paler yellow on its own. I don't want to paint it over the blue. I think I want to preserve the paleness, kind of the orange hint. Well, at least so far it feels right if I were to leave the background orange there for now. But I also think, is there any other paler blues might be peeping through? Okay, maybe this one will be a little bit bigger. Gives me that opportunity to work into my strokes, warm up, to creating the varieties of stroke. These strokes could be more repetitive still. Yeah, they're not the final ones. We're just planning, we're just dabbing, we're just filling spaces. But it is warming us up to the layers ahead. And there's some more blue on this side. Again, if I wanted to look for the gaps between the trees. Okay, it's quite a lot of yellowish trees at the back, so maybe I'll leave that space as a current background color. So as I mentioned earlier, we already have a medium darkness, the orange. We've got a dark tone for now as a tree trunk, and the sky is our lightest tone so far. Painting gaps between the tree trunks gives us some nice silhouettes. And then try to paint perfect and, oh, this is my final branch and this shape is the most amazing one. I can't check it and change it. Yeah, just look for light. If the branch is no longer there, or you broken it, or you change the direction, or using the orange background as a new set of branches, that's all fine as well. It actually gives you more versatile branches, make them quite, they're appearing and disappearing. They've got that forest look of things that changing with light. Okay, I think that's probably enough of my blue for now. Right, next we can look now at painting the tree. Okay, that could be one way. Another way, we could be painting the leaves and the trees at the back. Both approaches are fine because we already established our light, medium, and dark tones. I think from the practical point of view, I think if we'll start with some of the extra warmth of all these colors, and then bring some of the greens, and then maybe come back to some of the warmth as well. But at least let's work a little bit more into the medium tone. So now I'm going to be mixing colors from perhaps some of the darker. So if I'm looking at my medium tone, okay, some of my purpley colors will be darker. Some of those orange, so perhaps the orange here I already have as my background. So I just need some more extra reds and crimsons for some extra varieties, and perhaps a little bit more of those yellows, orangey colors for the trees at the back. Okay, let's mix them up. So I'm going to have my sample piece here, and let's have a little bit of darker tone from crimson and violet. Now we can use earlier on for the color wheel, I didn't use any white just for simplicity because I had a white piece of board to do it on. But we can now use a little bit of white to get the varieties of colors. And also it gives us opportunity not to make it too dark. Okay, not always might want to have it dark. So let's make a nice purple. And if you're not sure which purple to use, or it's going to be more into the red or it's more into the violet, mix it, put it on your palette, see what they appear on our orangey board or even on your white paper. But just look what they start to appear like. What about a bit more going into the red? Okay, maybe a little bit more red and less white. Okay. Now, when we'll be mixing the colors, violet and yellow Okay, it will be our opposite colors. So if we start adding a lot of kind of purple, violet, and then having a lot of orange, they will start just giving us a mucky gray color. Okay, so if we mix in those colors together, keep them together, wash the brush if you want to use the red with the yellows and oranges, okay, or use a different brush. So then those ones might not, they will be okay to stay on their own together, but they might not be good at mixing together. Okay, so I'm not going into orange here, I'm just planning how this darker red will appear. Okay, for now. So the leaves on the ground, maybe we'll have some of these colors. Okay, what I'm gonna do now, I'm going to play, just gonna leave this one here so you can still see it. I'm going to play with some of those strokes. Imagine you're an impressionist painter and you want to work with some dabs, with a lovely dabs of shadows of the leaves. Okay, and almost establishing those little leafy groups. Okay, that's why I was thinking of painting them greens first, but I think maybe we'll do a bit of both. Okay, something here. Maybe this is a busier group. Maybe we'll have a little extra red in it. Not too much white, but more red in its zone. Acrylic will be drying quite quickly, so don't be scared of putting slightly thicker strokes. These are lovely textured surfaces for the... Okay, it might not quite show as much yet, but when we'll have some greens, hopefully they will come through. Or we just paint a little bit stronger color to come through. So I'm going for cooler reds now. Cooler reds first. We'll do the greens and then we'll do the warmer reds after. So lovely dabs, just a little here and there, imitating those leaves. Okay, some longer strokes, some shorter strokes, some clustered strokes. Just approximately how it feels. Maybe some little directions of those groupings. I'm leaving them orange areas, perhaps where some of the lighter area is going to be, or on this area, maybe some extra greens. Okay. And for the warmer side, for the roots, for the leaves, I'm going to kind of stop at this area, but I would love to work on the trees at the back, my yellowish trees, to start planning them a little bit ahead. So it will be similar colors we'll be using later on top here, but we're just going to let them on this area dry first. So if I wanted to use yellowish orangey colors, I'm going to wash my brush so there is no purple or violet in it. Okay, so we can have more bolder colors. And I'm going to place, just going to mix more warmer colors now. I'll just bring it a bit more here. So let's start with a little bit of white. So let's aim for the distant trees colors first. So if I start with yellowish, just to help how much yellow is going to be in my orange. We can use ochre. Ochre is almost neutralizing. It's got a little bit of other colors in it. I've got a little bit of even violet in it. And now if we were to mix the yellow with a bit of violet, we'll have a very small tint of that ochre there. Okay, so that's my warmer tone. Not in particular order. I think that's probably one of my boldest colors. Bit of ochre and orange. And to see how that appears. Okay, that's much darker. But we can still use it's not as singing golden color. Okay, it's not as big change I just done. So maybe a hint of red. So all I want you to do is to mix those colors. Mix your yellow, ochre, orange, crimson, and various combinations. Maybe yellow and ochre, yellow and orange, yellow and crimson, maybe orange, sorry, same ochre with orange or ochre with crimson. It will give you that lovely range of colors. Depends how much we add. Okay. And of course you can add some white as well. So I've got this yellow and crimson and some ochre. But if I'll add more white to it, it will have a lovely, almost peach type. Of course, it's the same color here, but with extra white. Okay. I quite like that color for my trees. Maybe I will put a few strokes of that peachy yellowish color on this corner. Okay, so I'm just doing a few strokes just to see how things are going to settle in. And the closer we start painting the leaves, the larger the shapes we'll see. The more exciting strokes I'd love us to use. Okay, I think if I'll go for a little more white, so my peachy color becomes even lighter. Okay, so let's see that variety. It's kind of not super yellow. It's almost diluted yellow. On the screen it appears a little bit more yellowish than it is. Okay. More yellow and with my colors. Okay, so I want to have some sort of paler tone. But at the same time, when I'm placing the strokes against the blue, I think that might be a bit too light. However, in this corner, I think that will be quite good. There's more of a glow of the yellow in this corner. Okay, maybe making this volumes of the yellow slightly different. So with painting, at the same time we're still testing on the painting those colors. And all I want you to think is, okay, I found a little bit of something lighter. Now I mix the color and it looks even lighter. Can I put it anywhere? Oh, now it's a little bit slightly darker, more into the red or more into the orange. Can I place it anywhere? Would it work anywhere? No, then you just get another color mixed. Yes, possibly place it somewhere. If you're not sure, maybe in smaller quantity. And then leave it to have a think. Okay, I think some of these ones will be here. Okay, now the blue is already dry, so it looks quite good to paint over it. And with acrylics, it's really good in comparison to oils. If we don't want the colors to mix, you can have that freshness of the color remaining. Just put in a few dabs here and there, perhaps representing some of that looser leaves in the area. I think there might be a tiny hint of green later on, so maybe we bear it in mind as well. So it's an overall feel for the painting. That's why what we're looking at, the split complementary colors. It's not all perfect, only those colors, but the majority of those colors. Okay, so I think that might be somewhere there. And feels a little bolder, orangey red to use here. And if I'm mixing a color, I'm trying to mix it different to my background color, so we can see it slightly or more into the yellowish color, or more lighter just with extra white, or more into the red. Okay, I might just put some of the golden tree trunks. There might be some darker ones coming through later as well. Yeah, there definitely should be something light here as well. So let's mix that color with white. So I haven't moved huge, kind of far away from one color to another. I even mix them all in one place. I haven't washed my brush. So the color, every time I'm getting a slightly different one, it still belongs to that group of colors. Okay, if you want to preserve some of the branches, you can. If there will be more disappearing here, that's okay as well. Okay, right, I think here I wanted to, do I want to tweak my tree trunk here? I think so. Okay. And the sky and the trees here are slowly coming very close. The trees are tiny, tiny bit more lighter. They're glowing a little bit more against the blue. So I'm still dabbing about, checking how the colors coming together. Okay, if you want to think they are a pointy list today as well, maybe a larger points than all marks, rather than specific large scale, same scale points, dots. Might be better. Okay. And a little bit of leaves for them to cover the sky, and I think there I can go slightly darker. My probably oak and crimson will be a good color combination. Again, let's perhaps check it if I already mixed it before. I think so, but it's now against the blue sky, and here we can see almost groupings of strokes. Okay, maybe one grouping is almost like if we were painting some berries, like rowan berries. Okay, maybe another grouping, how they hanging as shapes. Okay. I have some larger strokes, I have some smaller strokes. Some are quite whispery and ready to be lost. Yeah. So the trees. Maybe some are still quite strong. So look like in this corner of the sky, they're quite more clustered. I can slightly change the darkness. Maybe put more intensified crimson and orange, but not huge jumps of darkness. If we wanted some more darkness, perhaps at the later time when the colors dry, that gives us that lovely autumny glow. There are less individual leaves in this area. There are lots of more branches, but if you wanted to bring a little bit more, be extra careful not to overdo it. Okay, that attention will be remaining kind of in this area first. A little bit more darkness. Okay, here, your paint's still wet. It's mixes well. If it's dry, I think might be even better. It gives you some subtones. So we're painting within the family colors now. So when we have a group, let's say yellow, oranges, reds, they all kind of mixing together. It's a family of colors, yeah? This will be families of greens. There's going to be families of blues. There's going to be families of purples or pinks, yeah? So any variations of them will work lovely together as well. Okay, anything else here? Maybe I'm thinking of this darker purpley color, so that's this dark orangey color to become a purple afterwards. So I might leave it for the moment. Anything for the ground. Let's make it a little stronger again. Oak and crimson. Okay. So this is probably the smaller dabs we've done so far, which we usually use for the end of the paintings, but we just want to make it nice and gentle introduction to our distant trees, so we don't have to overpaint it and do a lot of work to it afterwards. Okay, so we're blocking it in a different way today. We're blocking it by dabbing, yeah, by preparing that surface. Okay, anything here? Maybe a bit too light. I want to have a little variety on the ground, but maybe a little too light, just to offset my upcoming here tree root. So if we paint something a little bit lighter next to it. Okay, that lovely glow of golden strokes, a variety of warmth will give us that shimmering look of light. Okay, is that a little bit standing out too much? I think I'll let them mixed rather than being too individual. Okay, I think I'm happy with that for now. And as I said, we can come back to those areas and play with it. Just to give me a comparison for the future, I'm going to make 1 or 2 strokes of warmer leaves on top of our cooler shapes of the leaves. If I'll just put a couple of strokes maybe somewhere here, might just give me a hint for later on. But the leaves will be covering the tree, so it will be easier to touch them up after we've done the greens. I think that would be quite nice. Okay. Let's give you a bit of time to finish your trees at the back. Right, so now majority of our warm colors, yeah, finished. We've done some of these, we've done some of them. It's not quite totally finished, but they're there. So now let's look at our greens. Let's start with the kind of emerald cooler greens, maybe for the tree trunk, the tallest part of the tree. Yeah, and maybe let's look at and the shadows for the roots, and then we'll work for some extra warmth to build up on some of the sides where we see some highlights. Now I'm going to stay with a large brush because the tree trunk is large, and I don't want to do too much fussing about what we needed for the leaves, yeah, what we needed to have against the blue. That's different here. We need to see the big shapes now. So I'll use my emerald green and I'll test it against my orange background as well. I'll mix it with some white. Now on its own, my emerald green will look quite bold. Okay, so it's not going to be any good for us on its own. Okay, or at least in that volume. Okay, it looks quite turquoise against the orange background, but it's quite strong green. So I'm going to add a little extra phthalo blue to that. Okay, so that's more something in between a darker turquoise and getting closer to blue, probably darker turquoise, just much more deeper color. Okay, that looks much better. Okay, and to show the darkness of the tree, I'm going to start probably with that color. Just need to make sure I have enough paint. So I'm just going to mix more of a similar paint. You can just see it's not going to last me long. Okay, so let's place it on our tree trunk. Now, in some places, if you want to have the strokes partially transparent, but partially quite solid, that's fantastic because you can still have that violet and orange background that appearing in some places. Now I'm looking for all of the darknesses of the tree, but I'm also starting to see sub shapes of darkness and light. So I probably will leave a little bit of light with my original color here. Okay. Maybe a little extra darkness. So again, my exploration of tone continues. Okay, trying to see shapes. There's a little bit of that similar green maybe on the trees at the back. Okay. And there is some nice darkness coming here. And it's splitting the shape here as well. And this root is getting lost and found. Its darkness varies. So far it's a flat, not much of a change of a darkness. Okay. And perhaps a little bit of it, I might just put few elongated strokes to find the connections of the tree roots or the little bit of extra depth here and there. Okay. Actually, maybe that could have been a little higher, but we'll see. Maybe both will be working well here. Okay. And let's mix some warmer color. So I'm not going to be cleaning my brush again. I'm just going to use it as it is. I'm going to use some ochre and just add to my current color. So it just immediately propels me towards the warm part of my color wheel. Okay, and the warm part of the green, I mean, sorry, not the color wheel, but a warm part of the green. So it's still staying dark, but that warmth is present. And I want to block now my, just gonna double check if it's dark enough. Maybe just make it tiny little bit more into emerald green. Ochre sometimes has a lot of yellow in it. So let's just see how that didn't quite cool it off enough. So if direct emerald green doesn't help, a little bit of phthalo blue will subside that darkness. Sorry, that warmth. Okay. So that lovely mossiness, mossy color will come from us mixing close together groups of greens. But we need to start from picking the most basic of them. Okay, where they're just touching on the corners. Maybe that gap I've covered will start to appear in light a bit more. Okay. Okay, in some areas I can see it could be much lighter. In some areas I'm much happier with this current color. Okay, so let's stay with a slightly newer, warmer version, but still more of a shadow. I think it's those low areas of the tree roots, which we can paint as a big group, big blocks. Okay, that do look like protruding stone or flatter surfaces. So if I paint over some of the leaves, that's not a big deal. I just want to make that connection. Yeah, definitely some more stone, I think, here. Okay, so we're exploring, making decisions as we're painting. We're not just painting it perfection from first go, we're comparing it, making those connections. Okay, that's just my other root. Okay, here we go. And a little bit lighter color. Now before this time add more ochre, if I add a little bit more white first, okay, that gives me much more cooler light. Okay. Let's see if some of that cooler light will follow perhaps on one side of on the right-hand side of the tree trunk. Okay, maybe we'll deliberately make it slightly cooler here as little dark blobs of imperfection of an old tree trunk. Okay, maybe a little bit more surface light, coming close to horizontal strokes. Maybe just that extra light. Okay, and even perhaps, I want a little dab here as well. Even perhaps a little bit of that coolness on the tree trunk on the top. So maybe the tree looks darker at the top. That variety might come with warmth towards the bottom of the tree. Little subtones. Okay, any other a little cool areas? I might just be brave and explore a little extra coolness of it here. Might be a bit too much, but I can always cover it. I think the light is better, definitely. Okay. And let's go for a little extra ochre. Okay. Again, I'm running out of paint, so I'll top it up. Perhaps this is going to be my lightest green. So let's have a look for some of them most sunnier segments of the roots. Okay, maybe a little too light. I need to have a support of in between darkness close by, otherwise they will jump out too light. Okay, just want to get rid of this split shape. Some larger parts of it. It doesn't mean that I can't make it lighter, but I'm just working with that color first. Turn of the tree, how it will eventually show its width. Okay, just using maybe the strokes to help that movement. I'm not scared painting over the areas. Constantly thinking that we are building that surface. Maybe at the back, I'll use smaller strokes to show that less perfectionate. Yes, something more distant and blending out of focus. You want to change the brushes to have more variety of the brushes, from smaller ones to bigger ones. That's good as well. I'm going to persevere with a large brush because I know that could challenge me to make more exciting smaller strokes, narrow ones, partially smudgy strokes. And that will improve the quality of my painting as well. Okay, that's looking better. Okay, still quite a lot of darknesses, which is absolutely fine, which we can work with. Just gonna smudge some of this corner just to show that sharper, stronger contrast on the left, maybe softer on the right from that border corner of the tree. Okay, some lighter tones come in here. It's quite prehistoric mossy area, almost like dinosaur shape. So having rounder strokes at some of the roots, which might be coming close to, you know, hugging the rocks. Yeah, having that lovely soft endings, latter endings. Okay. Maybe combining those two now, going over my dark area. The dark stays, but the lighter tone starts seeping into, start blending into. To make the color blend, just add a little bit of water, and it will not blend with existing color because the existing color is dry, but it will layer itself over the darker tone in partially transparent layer, and it will visually blend. Okay, I'm not too sure about this perfect mark here. Otherwise it was taking the shape out. Okay, the darkness is nice, but a little not in the right place now. So now I can see how my leaves could benefit my tree, how they could cover it now, how I can start making more and more difference for the tree. Okay, we're slowly getting into that warmth, and I think adding slightly more lighter yellowish tone will be even better. So if I'll go with a hint of extra white and a hint of ochre, and have just a little extra addition in a few areas, I think this will go for a little more lighter tone. Maybe a bit too bright too early, maybe more settled. Maybe I were to stay. I want it still to appear dark. Okay. Maybe some of this lighter green even could go on one of the branches and the trees at the back. It just becomes of a connective color, and also the darkness of the tone is there. For the branches, it's just a different color. Okay, where else it might be a little dabs. This is lovely and playful part. Yeah, the flat brush gives me those pointy strokes. You can use a finger to soften them, or another brush or cloth. Some of the flatter surfaces will be perhaps highlighted. Don't want a lot of parallel lines, so I've got 2 parallel lines, so I'm immediately smudging that, and that takes that attention away. Okay, if it's not making big difference, maybe I need to add more white, and again some ochre. So tree remains to be most kind of appearing into that emeraldy color, but we have got some extra warmth in it, and we have got some extra coolness in it. I think I might just change its shape a little more here. Okay, just not as rigid. And again, perhaps just use a brush to blend it gently. So a little highlight, little softening on one side, another side could stay that sharp, lighter tone, have that lovely connection. And again, perhaps I'll just make a little more lighter tone, dab of water on my brush, maybe not too much water, so I'm just drying it, softening. If your colors are wet underneath, maybe don't rush. Maybe just give it time to dry a bit more. Okay, and again, I think that stays nice and light here. Squint your eyes, maybe see how that affects you see in the picture. If you're wearing glasses, maybe lift your glasses for a short while to see the overall look. Okay, that's not quite the line. Okay, I wanted to follow. It's quite a nice color though. Maybe this one's just gonna go a bit lower. That's where I've lost its angle. Maybe somewhere here. Okay. If you end up with your own version of the roots, keep going, keep exploring. If it works on your painting, give yourself that freedom of developing your own textures. Okay. Okay, just want these ones to have that softer feel rather than too sharp border here as well. Okay, a bit softer touch, a little more connection. And if you're using damp strokes or water on the brush, like I am. Also work in one area and then let it be, let it dry, and then you'll see the true light and the true color from that diluting technique. Don't try to make it all happen in one go. Okay, this is quite good. Right, any other highlights on the tree trunk, tree roots here? And that's it. So I might keep some of the areas quite flattish and the others a little more busier. And that could be as well with a hint of all the leaves. It will have that different textures. Might be those extra stone shapes protruding. Maybe another stone somewhere here, connecting it together. It's quite nice. Okay. Slowly started to take shape. And if it takes you a while to build it up on it, so you need to dry, just take your time. Maybe have a hair dryer close by and just give yourself that time. Don't rush. Work on one segment till you're happy with it, or work a little bit here, a little bit there, letting it dry, coming back to it. So while you're tackling one side of the painting of similar colors, the other one is getting ready for you elsewhere. Just spotting I can do a little bit more darker greens on these distant trees as well. Quite like the reddish violet color and the dabs of green helping out to shape the area. Okay. Now we're ready to start cooling off our painting as well, the warmer part, and cooling off and warming up some of the bringing the leaves over the tree trunks. So cooling off, I want to have a little extra darkness and to my tree, or a little bit more extra structure. So to do that, I can add a little extra light. Okay, so maybe a little extra into this larger area, maybe almost like a scale, or just brushing gently, partially dry brushing to connect the tree bark. Okay, so it's instead of very soft, big strokes, I just wipe my brush on a tissue and applied it just very gently. If it's too much, you can just wipe it off. And any other shadows, perhaps somewhere here. Okay, any other strong connections where maybe we want some softness? Thanks, showing a little bit of the old, perhaps, branches where they used to be attached, or how that bark, that silhouette of the bark is building up. A little more connection here as well with the lighter tone. I think in the painting it's a darker root, but darker chunk. So let's see. Just a little lighting, but coolness. We'll support it back. Also using a little bit of violet with our green. We'll just give it just an additional darkness if you wanted some extra depth of the shadow in a couple of areas to be improved. I think that's a nicer darkness. So it's a little diluted violet with our green. Okay, just bringing a couple of shadows a little stronger. Almost again could be done semi-dry brushed way. Could be a little bit more diluted so you'll know it will be dry and slightly lighter. Wanted that darkness slightly changing its direction. Okay, good. And any of the darknesses next to the roots I might have lost or might have not had before the leaves will come in, just a few dabs almost around my tree roots, not everywhere, but it will add that extra depth. That's gone too flat. And the light needs to be back here. Okay, and I think on the top of my tree, the darker green violet will show a little extra depth. You know, trees shooting upwards, so maybe similar to those dry brushing strokes, but in dark. I think it will propel my tree just a little higher into that depth. Careful not overdoing it. Sometimes it just needs a small amount to make that volume and that depth different. That's good. I just want to make sure that my tree trunk is not hugely different in texture from my roots, so I might have just a little extra similarity or back to a little more calmness in a tree trunk, or a little bit more busyness on the tree root, so maybe a bit of calmness here. So I'm back to green and ochre. Perhaps a little more calmness here. Small amount of light, so I'm just tweaking it. Light. Okay, and maybe even more light I wanted to see. Glow is slowly happening, but it needs support of colors elsewhere. This might be the one I want to have, that almost lemony yellow appearance of green and yellow. I think, and that's a couple of strokes over that light. And I just make enough connection with that light here. Okay. Just double checking any other silly shapes or any unevenness, what I might not see too well on the screen. As the paint is drying, I can start seeing shapes a little better. I can make those connections or varieties. Okay, maybe still a little more light on this key shape of the tree. I think that's looking good. Right, and let's do the touch-ups of the leaves. Right, well, we still have our dark greens. Can use a piece of card, just a board, something we can have a narrow surface. And if I put it in the water and use, just pick up a little bit of color. And I was talking about drawing some branches. That might be a nice way of exploring the mark making. Maybe just dabs, maybe just kind of suggestive directions. And if it's a watery color, you can also smudge it further down, or almost kind of lose it in within other colors. Okay, so I'm thinking of doing some of these branches here. Well, we've got that darker green, lighter green. I'm using diluted version of it anyway. So let's just place a few of them here. Okay, can try to vary the thickness if you can. Yeah, just drag it with your finger. Drag, create an extra branch by picking up the color with a clean side. Okay, all we need is that some cluster of the strokes. If they become too wide, you know that area is dry, we haven't painted it for a while, it should be dry. Just tiny bit of water, and let's put less better than too much. Okay, if you run out of green, pre-mix it first, don't go direct into an emerald green. Okay, so I might just mix a little bit more. I think I like that green and blue, green and violet. Okay, that's quite bluish. So let's have more green there, a little bit of even ochre. Because there is violet, it will stay dark. Right, it will just have a nice darker tone. Might bring some more tree trunks, branches connecting to, not connecting, but kind of behind this area. So they're not specifically attached to anything, they're just rows of them. Yeah. Tiny bit of darkness from my violet. these branches. It's a little awkward smudge on the wet area here. It's too big, and I know I'll make it worse smudging, wiping. I'll leave it and then maybe come back to it. Maybe it will get lost, maybe it will be a benefit. That's quite a nice darker stroke, which I didn't expect to come out wide, but I think it will make a little connection to our tree as well. Okay, any other darker branches here? Again, more suggestive branches. Any of the tree trunks on those distant smaller bushes or trees? I think they're just young trees. And the more you play with the card you're using, the more creative you become, the more free you will become. Nothing wrong with smudging things and losing shapes. Turning your board different ways. Okay, that's looking better now. Okay, anything else? I think I'm quite happy with the volume of the branches here now. And let's stop with that. Right, let's touch up my leaves now on the ground. I'm gonna go with a medium filbert brush, which has a nice round end. Maybe a little bit smaller than this one. Okay. I'll just wash the one I have here. And that's the perfect size. And again, let's look back into some of these colors, those purpley reds, just to return some of them here. I also want to have a lighter purpley tree somewhere in the back, and I'm going to start with that one because it will probably have more white in it. Quite a quick finishing touch here, so it's more of a purple, so I mix crimson and violet together. It's quite a bit of white, and I think if I were to use it to cover some of that orangey color I had, but being also prepared, lose and find it, some of these darker strokes. The reason I wanted to do it first is if I wanted to touch it a little more with some orange to overlap, it still has a chance to dry. And I think some of those tree trunks, that little bit of that darkness in there. Okay, just makes it not all the same yellowish orange. It just dilutes it into that variety. I think I might have a little over orange this corner as well. It's not, I can't quite see the much purple on the photograph, but on my painting, I think it's working really well. So work with what's on your painting rather than what you see. So early stages, we refer to a picture or to painting outside to what we've seen, and later stages we work with what we think is better for our piece. I want a little more depth to that ground here, so it's not just a flat, soft space. There's a bit of darkness, there's a little bit of grounding for the horizon. Okay, and I'm ready to start working more into the leaves now. So let's have a tiny bit more extra red. Okay, just wanted to have a link of that horizon with horizon or horizontal strokes at the back. Okay, a little too much. Curly version was better. I prefer to do something wrong rather than not to try what I think should work. Okay. And my leaves here. Tiny bit of darkness is because we have had quite a lot of it. Just any shapes we want to overlap, and then that warmth of few highlights of the leaves will work. Will come to the top. So any of the gaps are lost. Okay, or if you still want to preserve what's existing orange looks like, that's lovely. Okay, quite like this. Maybe smaller amount, maybe a little bit more of that violety purple. Okay, maybe some more leaves just come into these areas, separating them, the roots a bit more. Okay. Anything else extra darker to connect our shadows? I think we're more or less okay. That's maybe a bit too strong, but let's do a little bit. Hmm. Yeah, I'm quite liking that. Anything else reddish in color? I'm almost there. Right, and now final is some highlights of oranges and reds. Some stronger orange could be made from yellow and crimson. In comparison to just orange. Orange is a lovely color on its own. In acrylics as well, that intensity of the color could go. So we don't want bold yellow. We want that fire lighting, yeah, gold, which will belong to the trees, yeah, at the back. So just maybe some of the highlights of the leaves, maybe a little corners. Again, just do a little bit at a time, so you're not overdoing it. You can also use a little bit of white and have less yellowish but more red in your paint, but with a little bit of white, so it still looks light. So it's not so the yellow, but that browny color of the leaves becoming start looking more red-like color. Okay, any of the side strokes. And try not to place the dots, or just let's place them all equally spread. Let's put two together. Let's put a group of threes. Let's have an empty area. Let's have a very narrow stroke and a narrow stroke. Maybe another stroke somewhere else. If they start being too similar, maybe remove it. So that type of variety of things we want. We don't want them to be like a lovely abstract pattern going quite similar in its development. Okay, I'm not sure if that works, so I might just turn it to a shape if it's too much. Get any other highlights on this area just to make things a little calmer, horizontal. This area is looking a little. Okay, and I think final couple of strokes I need. Now I can see this area just a little more light at the back. Maybe a bit more white and yellow. I've got enough red, orange on the brush. Just some fresher light strokes. To make this area slightly bolder. That's too strong, so maybe something in between. Anything tidying up here? Tidying meaning there's a lot of white stroke branches. Can I help with the light to clean it up or clear it up? Can I have a little bit more extra light on the trees here? Just for the light, extra freshness of the strokes. That's good. That's a lovely orange there as well, but just feels like it wants a little extra support. That's looking nice. I think I'm ready to stop. That's just that golden color just coming forward a little more. There we go. So we've got our lovely greens with its opposite warm reds. So thank you very much for today. Great to have you in class, and look forward to seeing your paintings finished. Thank you.